Welcome to Inside the Program, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Justin Wells, your host. With me, as always, is the publisher at IT. That's Eric Nalleen. Hey, before we get into this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're building this out, and we want you to be a part of that. Come see us at InsideTexas.com as well. Eric, for the last 2 months, it's been about recruiting. Now we get to talk about real football, and it's really around the corner. They report on Tuesday, the 29th. They kick off fall camp on the 30th. On Wednesday, we are a mere days away. I'm excited. You posted something, a lot of good stuff late last night. Some team stuff arriving in. A lot of stuff to cover, a lot of stuff on the docket. But let's just start with Sark. What's with the vibe you're hearing from Sark about his attitude with workouts this year, and kind of the vibe from there?
Yeah, before they left practice on Thursday, and they didn't even have a full practice because he trusts them so much. He gave them the typical, going away talk. Don't get in any trouble, that stuff. He doesn't really have to go too deep into that like he once did. He's not coaching Georgia. He's very confident in this team. You could tell by his demeanor. He's been very upbeat. He's happy with a lot of personal records being set, whether it's running or in the weight room. He feels the team's coming along, has a lot of leadership, feels they're in a great starting point for fall camp, probably the best starting point they've ever been in for fall camp. Team has a lot of trust. So, yeah, they've got a long weekend before they come back next Wednesday. I'm sure some of them will still be working out, still be, doing whatever it takes to try to get an edge going into a bunch of competitions that's starting next week.
One of the cool things, I guess a cool thing, if you want to look at it that way, losing to the national champion is that they're the first game on the schedule the next year. That keeps your motivation for the entire offseason. And that's something we've been hearing a lot about behind the scenes. It's, they're putting in work, but there's also some Ohio State stuff going on. That they understand that's when the season begins. They understand they can make a major statement in playing the reigning national champs. What's been the kind of the motivation, going in right before we go into camp, thinking about the Buckeyes and those guys?
Yeah, they're not over talking it too much as far as scheme and install and all that stuff. That'll happen, beginning next week, the weeks after that. But they are using it as motivation in workouts for sure. You get to play the team that you just lost to. How often does that happen? They're the defending national champion. That doesn't happen often. And then it's one of the national powers and a team that you go head to head for recruits. And it's really the team that you're aspiring to be this season. They've seen how those big wins on the road have set the tone for the seasons in 23 and 24. They want to set the tone again. Now, do they feel confident? I will say they feel confident going into that game already. They feel like they're in a great position to go into that stadium and get a win like they've done in the last 2 seasons. But yeah, it is constant motivation. And the coaches also use Georgia. Georgia got them twice last year. And surprisingly, the coaches will bring up Florida. Maybe not surprisingly if you've been following Florida and understand how they played after that Texas game last year. They finished the season very strong. They're coming in with an increased talent level, a good quarterback. But Florida's one of those teams that they used to motivate just to get a little extra sweat, hard work out of them in the summer months. But, yeah, getting ready to focus on Ohio State coming up. They're very excited. I think they're excited to have that game first rather than to tune up non-conference, patsy.
What's funny is, everybody's excited about Arch Manning. There's so many elements to 2025, but really it begins with Arch Manning. But if you listen to Sark at SEC Media Days and some of his other media availabilities this summer, he figured out he really likes the wide receiver room. And that's a room that the NFL draft has come in and taken a lot of guys the last couple of years. But he likes that group. He's confident. There's some confidence there with those guys. Ryan Wingo. We know the DeAndre Moore, the proven commodity. What's that room kind of looking like right now as they head into fall camp?
Yeah, we're getting ready to do some pre-fall camp roundtable stuff. And I noticed Ian and I both have Ryan Wingo as camp MVP prediction. Yeah. And I think they have to have that out of Wingo. Obviously it doesn't really matter if he's MVP or not. It's not even a real award. But we need to hear a lot of buzz. Well, I'm already hearing buzz about him. I asked about Wingo last night. Leaner, stronger, faster. And more important than running faster, he's playing faster. And that's, processing out on the field, being on the same page with the quarterback is very important. He's leaps and bounds ahead of where he was last year. And if that's the case, he's going to have a massive year. Now, our source predicted top 5 wide receiver this season in the country. 2 of those slots are already taken with Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. The rest are sort of up for grabs. I've been predicting a Rome Odunze career for Ryan Wingo outside of the redshirt season that Odunze had. Odunze exploded in his second year of actually playing, his third year in college football. I think Wingo's going to explode in his second year of playing as well. Similar body types. Wingo's a little bit faster. At least I think so. Rome Odunze might be a little bit better body control, natural catcher, but I expect Wingo to blow out. But yeah, there's Aaron Butler had a very good week this past week. A lot of contested catches. That's kind of been his issue, that inconsistency. He's maturing more. I asked the source if he thought Livingstone was going to be wide receiver 4. He said he thinks he has a chance to be wide receiver 3. That's a competition between he and Emmett Mosley. I tend to give the nod to Mosley just because they brought him in for some of the other things he does outside of catching the ball. But I think Livingstone can do those as well. So we'll see. That's definitely a camp battle. And then the freshmen are coming along. I don't know how much to expect out of Khalil Lockett and Jamie French, or Michael Terry for that matter. But they are improving much better than they were in the spring. And then, Dalen McCutcheon is probably the receiver definitely the receiver we hear the most about out of those freshmen. I expect him to contribute this season.
In those roundtables that are going to come out, one of my biggest camp things was the number 3 wide receiver. Like who's going to be, who's that battle is going to be there. There's also a big time edge that is looking to have a big time season this year. We're going to talk about him right after this words from Academy.
All right, who's ready?
I'm open.
Eric, we hear Colin Simmons. We know Trey Moore. We're excited about what Zena Umeozulu can do. You posted a note on Lance Jackson this week that was absolutely ridiculous. But there's one other guy we got to talk about at edge. That's Ethan Burke. This is a guy that's trying to fill in potentially for a Baron Sorrell. He's trying to be that sturdy kind of other guy for Colin and the Horns. What are you hearing about Burke behind the scenes?
Yeah, well, we have focused on those guys, and don't forget Colton Vostok, who we get asked about all the time, and we've been hearing good things about him as well. It's just a stacked room. But we circle back to ask about the steady veteran because we are kind of expecting a breakout. You've seen it a number of times where these seniors have these build-up seasons, and then finally in the senior year they explode. It's happened a number of times, and it's resulted in high draft picks. Ethan Burke looks the best he's ever been, and he's turned on the leadership switch. Usually that foreshadows a big season. I think he's in line to have it. Now, his big issue was probably going to be, they're going to have a lot of sub packages for pass rush. Will he come in? Will he come off the field? Will he slide down to D tackle? We're not sure yet. But on a down-to-down basis, we're expecting him to be highly productive based on what he's showing this offseason. Expect him to have a big August. We can't let him be the forgotten man. Baron Sorrell was the forgotten man sometimes last year, and we saw how productive he was, got drafted in the 4th round. I'm expecting Burke to get drafted higher than people realize, or at least think at this point, based on what we're hearing right now.
And also remember, Burke was big the last part of the season. He made big plays against Texas A&M. He made big plays against Clemson. Burke's got that in him. Maybe it's some of that lacrosse. We know about those guys that are multi-sport guys. Let's talk about special teams for a minute. Joe wrote a story this week that made his cheeks as rosy as possible. He got to talk about punters, kickers, and the specialists, but we got to know about the skill guys on the third level of football in special teams realm. Tell us a little bit about those standouts, because I think that's important. Who's going to be returning punts? Who's going to be returning kicks? Who's going to be that gunner? Who's going to be that kamikaze that Trey Wisner was a couple of years ago? There's some young guys there. What are you hearing?
Well, as far as, the high level, the gunners, the returners, I think that's going to be guys that we're already familiar with. Returning, I think, is going to be DeAndre Moore and Trey Wisner back there. Trey Wisner kind of that lead sort of blocker like Jordan Whittington was for Keelan Robinson. Punt returner, I expect to be Ryan Niblett, but we have been hearing some talk about Dalen McCutcheon getting looks there. That's all going to come down to who do the coaches trust. Gunners, Warren Roberson for sure. Ryan Niblett can be a gunner. Let me see. There's a couple others. Maybe even Ricky Stewart, your guy Ricky Stewart. So I got on that tangent, the special teams tangent, by asking about what freshmen we can expect to see the field. Everybody wants to know about freshman impact, but the team is so loaded, it's hard to expect it on offense or defense. There's just there's an assembly line of experienced, talented players ahead of these guys. But on special teams, the way they can make an impact. Lance Jackson, who we talked about earlier, being extremely impressive in the weight room, going to be a high draft pick in the NFL. At least that's a feeling right now. He's going to take Ethan Burke's role on special teams, it sounds like, which is also going to enhance Ethan Burke's output. Kick coverage, punt coverage, that sort of thing. Expect him to make some plays and earn the coach's trust in that manner. We talked about Grayson Littleton a lot this offseason. That guy will do anything he could possibly do to get on the field. Could he eventually be a gunner? expect to see him on kick coverage. He's got plenty of speed. Ricky Stewart is a do-it-all sort of guy on special teams. We've seen him do it in the past with running backs. Trey Wisner served that role. Keelan Robinson served that role. Right now, that looks like Ricky Stewart's easiest path to the field. They got to stack the pipeline in front of him at running back. So that's going to be a good option for him. And then Jonah Williams, you got to integrate that guy into special teams and get him on the field any way you can. I've heard for sure that guy's going to find himself on special teams. He's going to, if he's got that sort of attitude in the batter's box, imagine how hyped up he's going to be before kickoffs and punts.
And that's what's exciting about Jonah Williams. Like, listen, he brings another level of energy and competitiveness. And I think Sark absolutely loves that about him. In the offseason, you got to work in the weight room. It's not just about 7-on-7 and going around in your underwear. You got to work out. We got to know who the gains are in the weight room, because that kind of separates you from being, from going from a regular team to a more physical team to a more ready team. What are some of the standouts that you're hearing in the weight room this summer?
What I like about getting information on weight room is, you get to hear the progress, but you also get to hear who's working the hardest, and it has nothing to do with talent level. If you're in the weight room, that's just about wanting to get after it. Yeah, genetics play a part too, but if you're at Texas, you already have good genetics. So I was excited to hear about Melvin Hills. We haven't heard a whole lot about him in his career at Texas. We expected it to take longer for him to get to the field, and then of course they brought in so much talent, it might take even longer. But he's putting in work in the weight room. Big deadlift, strong guy, plays with motor. I asked the source, can we expect anything out of Hills in the coming years? He said, yeah, if he sticks with the program, which of course means, stick with the program in the saying way, and then also just stick with the literal football program. He's going to find his way to the field. I think he's going to be that sort of guy that they just brought in, Levon Johnson, where he's going to be in that second or third wave eventually in his career. Malik Muhammad, we always hear about him putting in work from a technique standpoint, training, taking care of his body, eating the right way, but now he's straight up getting after it in the gym. He's anticipating going up against bigger grown men a year from now rather than college kids. So he's absolutely he's taken to the weight room probably more than he has in the past. And then your guy, Ty Anthony Smith, East Texas, puts in that East Texas work in there. He's bigger, stronger, probably a year away from making a real big impact. As far as like breaking out nationally, vying for potential all-conference. But this year he's going to play a considerable amount. Bigger, stronger, faster than he was, knows how to find the ball, knows how to play in reverse and coverage. Pretty much a do-it-all player. Just needs to get his body in line, and then everything's going to come together for him. So those are guys, and Lance Jackson, of course, we heard about that 370-pound power clean, which is insane. 1.5 times your body weight is elite for a football player, but for a true freshman to do that, only 7 months in the program. On top of it, you see his father's got the genetics that he looks like a 6'10" defensive end if those existed. His brother, 6'6", 265 pounds at the NFL Combine, had a 40-inch vertical, unheard of, and a 10-foot 9-inch broad jump, also unheard of for somebody that size. Lance has the genetics, but he might have the best genetics. And then you see the football tape that he had in high school. You can see why Texas Homer loves him, why I love him, why I had him as a 5-star when everybody was whatever, and why you love him as well. So hearing good things about this program. Now, in August, it's our job to figure out where are the issues, what do they have to overcome? Is the offensive line fulfilling its job? I fully flipped a switch from recruiting. I barely even care about recruiting right now. See this house behind me? Next time I'll be back in the Houston Heat. This is the last time you'll see me in a hoodie for a very long time. I can't wait to get back to it and cover football. For us, the season begins on Wednesday. It does not begin on August 30th.
We can't wait for you to get back to Texas. We're ready for 2025, Eric. We're ready at InsideTexas.com. Look, we're also bigger, stronger, and faster. So we have we have our own gains. That's why you got to come see us at IT. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Come give us a shot. This is really the best absolute time to be a member at InsideTexas.com. And we really do have the best community. Thank you for making us a part of your day. And thank you for joining us on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel and Inside the Program, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors.